Thanks for tuning in to Murder News, the true crime cult for the latest breaking news, murdery memes, TV reviews, podcast recommendations, and all things spooky. Come hang out with our cult family as we discuss the latest breaks and cold cases, our favorite podcasts, and run around with some baby goats. I'm television's Aurora Katie.
And I'm your online murder friend, Angelina. Cults are no fun alone, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell all of your true crime friends to join the commune at patreon.com/murdernews. This is the Week in True Crime. Nearly 8 months after her initial disappearance, the body of 37-year-old California woman Erika Lloyd was finally identified this week. Erika was last seen alive by her roommates at their home in Walnut Creek when she departed on a pandemic road trip on June 14, 2020. According to her roommates, she had planned to drive 7 hours to Joshua Tree National Park to meet some friends for a camping trip. Erika left her 12-year-old son with her parents when she took some time away to try and cope with the stress of COVID-19. Erika's mother, Ruth Lloyd, explained that as a single mother and small business owner, the stress of losing income while on lockdown and the pressure of homeschooling her son was beginning to get to her. But Ruth maintained that Erika seemed fine and the family hadn't feared for her safety when she left home. 2 days later, on June 16th, friends and family lost contact with Erika, and she was reported missing on the 17th. Her abandoned Honda Accord was later discovered by California Highway Patrol. The vehicle appeared to have been in an accident and had been vandalized. After the discovery of her vehicle, her family began to speculate that maybe she had been injured in a car crash and lost her memory or became confused. In the weeks and months that followed, countless searches were carried out, including searches led by sheriff's deputies, park rangers, volunteer search and rescue efforts, and aircraft searches. Investigators even brought in an expert on the cave and mine systems in and around Joshua Tree to aid in their search for Erika. But it was hikers who actually discovered skeletal remains in a desert field in Wonder Valley on January 31st. The remains were identified as belonging to Erika Lloyd using her dental records, but the cause and manner of death are still unknown. Erika's brother, Colin Lloyd, wrote a post thanking the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department and all the volunteers who gave their time to help find his sister. Colin wrote of his sister, "Erika adored everyone. She left a bright smile on everyone's heart. She would remind you of who you truly were and how important and loved you were. She warmed your soul." Police have urged anyone with any information related to her case to call the Walnut Creek Police Department at 925-943-5844 or the Morongo Basin Station of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department at 760-366-4175.
The body of 17-year-old Alexis Murphy was just discovered after the teen had been missing since 2013. Alexis has been missing since August 3rd, 2013 from Shipman, Virginia. She was reported missing by her family after she didn't come home from running errands in Lynchburg earlier that day. Alexis was described by her family as a fashionista, an athlete, and a joker who was about to start her senior year in high school. She had left her home around 3:00 p.m. to go shopping for hair extensions for her upcoming senior pictures. When she still wasn't home that night by midnight, her grandmother began to worry something was wrong. Police immediately began searching for her, and her white Nissan was found in a movie theater parking lot 3 days after she was reported missing. Police began searching along the path she would have taken between shopping and the movie theater parking lot and found security footage at the Liberty gas station in Livingston of her talking to a man. The man in the video had a Daffy Duck neck tattoo, and the gas station attendant said the man was often seen hanging out in his truck in the parking lot watching people and was kind of creepy. They also recalled Alexis following the man in the truck in her car. The FBI was then able to ping the location of her cell phone, and it was found in an overgrown lot nearby. On that lot lived the man with the Daffy Duck tattoo, Randy Taylor. Randy was living in a camper on the property and invited the police inside to look around. They found a diamond-studded earring, a long black hair, and a fingernail that all matched Alexis's DNA. When questioned, Randy said Alexis had been to his camper to buy drugs and have beers with a black man. However, the man he named had a super solid alibi for this time frame, and he had actually been out of state. The police got a search warrant for the property and then found a rolled-up t-shirt with Alexis's blood, a strip lash, and a hair extension. Though Alexis's body was not found, Randy was charged with first-degree murder and abduction with intent to defile and sentenced to 2 life terms in prison. Well, we finally have some closure for Alexis's case, as her remains were discovered on a private property on Route 29 in Livingston. It's unclear if they were discovered on Randy's property or elsewhere. Also, the cause of death could not be determined, or at least hasn't been released. Her remains were actually found on December 5th, but police just announced the discovery this past week as it took time to get a positive ID for Alexis and give her family time to process the news. Our sources for this week are linked in the details below, and they were Crime Noir, who's actually our guest for this week, The Missing Podcast, Medium, KIRO 7 News, and Wikipedia. If you're interested in learning more about Alexis's case, we'll be doing more of a deep dive this week on our podcast, which also comes out today.
This week, we're watching Allen v. Farrow on HBO. The 4-part series covers the accusation of sexual abuse against Woody Allen by his daughter Dylan Farrow, who was 7 years old at the time. Mia and Dylan Farrow have spoken publicly about the accusations since the alleged events first took place in 1992. Many were quick to defend the famous director and villainize Mia Farrow as making the claim to get revenge against Allen, who had since begun dating her adopted daughter, Sunyi Previn. Yet, Dylan's story has remained consistent over the years, and in the wake of the Me Too movement, which was started in part by her brother Ronan Farrow, we are all reminded of the importance of believing women. Check out episode 1, now streaming on HBO Max, and let us know your thoughts on the docuseries in the comments below.
We are so excited to have Candace with us from this week's favorite podcast, Crime Noir. Crime Noir is a podcast dedicated to telling the stories of missing and murdered Black people. Candace, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm well. Hey, everyone. How are you guys?
So I'm so excited to talk to you today because you just got done speaking at an event earlier today where you were live. Tell us about that event.
I spoke at an event called Granite Noir, which is located in Scotland. It's basically a collection of like true crime authors, true crime podcasters, all encompassing. It was phenomenal. It's actually a free event, and they are going to post a live stream. So if you want to check it out, go to granitenoir.com and it should be there, or check mine out. I'll post it on my social media as well.
I'm so excited to see it. And right now is kind of the perfect time to be in Scotland, it feels like. You know, like I know there's some bigger cities there, but one of my best friends that I met through a true crime group lives in like some small town where she lives on a goat farm, which is my dream.
Oh, that's cool.
Wouldn't that be cool to go visit there? Cool. So Candace, you have mentioned on your show that you created Crime Noir because the media has failed to adequately and accurately cover criminal cases revolving around Black people. So what was the tipping point to make you want to do your own podcast, and why specifically address true crime?
Well, first, I am a true crime fanatic. I grew up watching true crime. I went to college and studied forensic science. Like, I'm just a nerd in that way. I felt compelled to start my own podcast because I felt like other podcasts were not doing enough coverage on missing and murdered Black people. And I wanted to just take a chance and do it myself.
Yeah, I think that's great. And you're so right. Like the media coverage is often just not there. And so like maybe if it's a case that happened 15, 20 years ago, there's absolutely no information that you can find online, which is really disturbing. But you do such a great job of that research and kind of unearthing the details that seem to kind of barely be there. So I think that's a really impressive skill that you have.
Thank you.
So what got you into true crime in the first place? Was there a murder in your hometown? Maybe a story that really engaged you? Perhaps just a fascination with true crime TV as a kid? What is your origin?
I would say just a fascination of true crime as a kid. I really don't remember exactly when I started watching it, but I think it was like in middle school, high school, that I kind of went down that rabbit hole of, wow, Unsolved Mysteries, you know, like the series that comes on. I used to watch that when it was, I think, on Lifetime. I just like it. I think it's interesting. And I always was fascinated on the why. Why would somebody do this to somebody? Or why would somebody make somebody disappear and never tell where they're at?
Absolutely. And along those lines, you have done such a good job, as I mentioned, as a researcher. You find so many great details. I really love how your show is set up, that you are going over the facts. It's also nice that they're kind of incisable pieces. Like your podcasts tend to run like 20 to 40 minutes. And I think a lot of people, their biggest complaints about podcasts are they're so long and there's so much meandering and like chatting about nothing on topic. So I really love that about your show, that it is so focused and so informative, and you really do a great job of finding all the details. I especially love your episodes on Hassani Campbell and Sage Smith. Such good job on both of those cases. Love that. And of all the cases you've researched, is there one that really stuck with you the most?
I would say my first episode was Relisha Rudd. She's from DC. I live in Northern Virginia. So I just feel like her case really stuck with me because you just see the lack of coverage. She was a 9-year-old girl, or 8 or 9-year-old girl, who disappeared from Washington, DC. She was poor. She was living in a homeless shelter at the time. And when we see other 9-year-olds, maybe not Black, maybe like a white girl, go missing, it's virtually everywhere. And I just felt like her case didn't get enough coverage, and that really saddened me. She's still missing to this day. The person she was last seen with actually killed himself and his wife. So I would say that case really stuck with me completely.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And if you all are not following Candace on Twitter, please do, because I love that your Twitter doesn't just promote your show, but you bring up some of these really topical issues. Like you had a tweet recently about, can we maybe stop talking about JonBenet? It's fine that we've had so many documentaries, but could we maybe get a documentary made about a missing Black girl? Which I thought was such a great response. It's like, we all know Madeleine McCann and JonBenet. Like,
and not to say that they don't deserve media attention.
Absolutely.
Like I always clarify, I'm not saying their stories aren't important, but we always see a JonBenet Ramsey special every month, every couple of months for the past whatever. Whereas you don't see that kind of energy applied to Black cases, or even lesser known cases. Even the most, I would say, quote unquote, popular or well-known Black case does not receive that amount of attention.
Absolutely. And also along those lines, on your Twitter, another case that recently got a lot of buzz on social media was the execution of Dustin Higgs. And I really appreciated your thoughts on the case, because for those of you who aren't familiar with the case, Dustin Higgs was convicted of killing 3 women in 1996. There was a big push in the days leading up to his execution, which just happened last month, to take the death penalty off the table, and also many people declaring his innocence, which didn't quite seem okay to me. But I was really interested in your perspective that the media was taking this stance on his guilt in large part because he killed 3 Black women. And that there is this matter of society not taking the murder of Black women as seriously as the life of a Black man. So can you talk a little bit about how this case came to your attention, and some of just your thoughts about it?
It came through my attention actually on social media. I started seeing petitions and things like that. And if you've been on social media for over 5 years, it's a gift and a curse because you can get a lot of information. However, if you're not fact checking or doing your own bit of research, it could kind of be wrong or skewed in a sense. And so I saw this petition for the death penalty for Dustin Higgs. I am not necessarily for the death penalty. I just want to say that. However, if the crime is heinous, I don't feel like it's my place to step in and advocate. Now, that's just what it is. So I looked at his case, and he had lured 3 Black women to their deaths. And the technicality that they were trying to say he was quote unquote innocent from was not pulling the trigger. Right. But just because you don't pull the trigger does not mean you're not culpable in someone's murder. If I say, hey, Nico, that's my dog's name, please go kill Candace, kill me, she's culpable for that. And I don't like it. I think you can advocate against the death penalty without saying this person is innocent or lying or fabricating the truth. That's what really annoys me about these cases.
Yeah, and you really brought it to my attention because I was pretty upset. I'm not for the death penalty, so it was definitely sort of a thought-provoking case for me because we've actually talked on Twitter a little bit about it before, but I just don't believe in it in general. I thought that
which is valid.
Yeah. And people are allowed to have different stances on it. Absolutely. Yeah. But I just feel like negating these women's life by making such a big issue about what he's going through is interesting. But also saying he was innocent didn't seem fair to me. And then we tried to cover a little bit about the case and the lives of the women on our show. Yes, and I could find no research about them, like hardly anything about them. I was trying to figure out how the correct pronunciation for their names. So I'm going through and trying to listen to podcasts and other YouTube videos where they said it to make sure I got it correct. And there was no information covering their cases, just him. And I think for me, that's a problem. Exactly.
And it's like, it doesn't, again, I'm not for the death penalty, but I do have a problem with rewriting history and making it a stance of innocent versus I just don't believe in the death penalty. And I don't believe anybody should die at the hands of the state. I think those are 2 different things. And I think that's the issue with social media is that it conflates the 2 together, which is not the case.
Yeah. And you had mentioned like her family's having to see all these posts too and kind of relive it through everybody taking this stance. So
exactly.
That's great. If y'all are not following Candace on Twitter, go do so right now because your Twitter is
please
fantastic.
Do, I
learn new things every day.
Yeah. I talk a lot of trash on Twitter, but it's entertaining.
Very entertaining, but you're very intelligent. I really like that you kind of you see things from a different perspective than I might have at the face value of things. And I really appreciate that. So,
and that's one good thing about Twitter and social media is like, you can form a good opinion or a bad opinion. And some people do provide facts or different ways of thinking. And I enjoy it as well, especially.
I love it.
I love it.
It's great to have like all the information, especially in true crime where it is complicated. Like there is no black and white in this sort of thing. Like, there is no good and bad. Everything's kind of a gray area. So it's good to have a different perspective of your own always in life anyways, but especially in true crime. Well, Candace, it's been such a pleasure having you. I've been a big fan of your podcast, for a long time now.
Yes, you have. You're a day one. You're a day one. When I had probably like 300 followers.
I was there too. Yeah. So good. So it's such
good to see your brand growing as well. Is it 2 of you guys now?
Yeah, it's Angelina and I together, and you'll have to meet her someday too. We'd like to try to get her on all of our podcast chats, but she has a job, whereas I don't. So I have to like work with her schedule. So she's working today, but I'm sure she would love to meet you. So we'll have to get you back on sometime. We'll have to do a thing.
Yeah, I had a good talk with you.
Nice. Thank you so much. And can you let our viewers know where they can find you on social media for all of those great tweets?
Well, I'm on Twitter. My Twitter is CrimeXNoir. I'm on Instagram, where I do a lot of posting on there as well. It's Crime Noir, the podcast. I have a website that I don't update as frequently, but every now and then I do get messages on there. So that's crimenoirthepodcast.com. My podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, I believe Stitcher, and some episodes are on YouTube as well.
Great. And be sure to subscribe to Crime Noir wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. We are approaching the end of Black History Month, but we have a really easy way for you to continue celebrating Black excellence all year long. If you found yourself here, there's a good chance you already like true crime, and we have some recommendations for amazing Black podcasters who cover, you've guessed it, true crime. This is a great free way to support Black creators who are doing amazing work. Our favorites include Crime Noir, obviously, Scam Goddess and Book of Lies if you're into cons and scams, Fruit Loops and Noir True Crime Files if you'd like to learn more about crimes that impact BIPOC communities, Zero Dark Murders if you like military crime cases, and What Did You Do? Brett is a Murder and Affirmative Murder if you're looking for true crime comedy. We're linking to a list of more of our favorite true crime podcasts with super amazing Black hosts and the details down below.
Thanks so much for tuning into This Week in True Crime with Murder News. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below, give us a thumbs up, and tell all of your true crime friends.
Help support Murder News by visiting our Patreon at patreon.com/murdernews. We have some great benefits like merch, a shout out on our YouTube and podcast, exclusive episodes, and early access to tickets for our live online events. Your support helps feed the MMN goats and adds to our community wig wall, and helps support our amazing writers that keep you up to date with the latest breaking news every day on murder.news. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. See you next week.